Before we get into the main video, just want to say a quick word about the news that the actor Kirk Douglas has passed away at the age of 103. It's nothing to do with the video, and I wasn't going to make a video about that in its own right, but just I'd say it in passing. He was one of the last of the golden era of Hollywood. I actually remember him not from Spartacus, but from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the 1956 film, where he played a jolly sailor. So anyway, rest in peace, Kirk Douglas. Okay, what I want to talk about here is a case that I mentioned a while back. It's about a young French woman, teenager, who has had death threats, who has basically had to go into hiding. Not into hiding. She's very bravely been public, but her life's at risk, basically. There's no other way to gloss it over. This is a report from the Times today. So this young woman, she's identified only as Mila for the sake of her safety. She's appeared on French television on a channel called Quotidien. This is a news program on the TMC channel, and she said that she had to stand up for her opinions. Bit of context to this, if you don't know the case. A few weeks ago, she's an aspiring singer. She was on Instagram and she was getting unwanted advances from a male user, and they got into a heated dispute about this. He called her misogynistic names. He called homophobic names. He labelled her a dyke, among other things, and that provoked this exchange. And she then told him he said he was a Muslim. She said she hated religion. She hated Islam, and because of that, she's now got potentially hundreds of thousands of Islamists out for her. That is an utter travesty. The response, well, firstly, I'll just talk a little bit about what she said on this program. I saw the messages straight away, she told Quotidian, and I really felt disgust for these people. I wondered how many people could have so much hate. I would not have been safe in my school. Given the threats I received, I could have had acid thrown at me, or have been hit, undressed in public, or buried alive. She said she regretted the scale of the controversy that she had provoked, although I would even question that she provoked it. And the vulgarity of her choice of words, that's what she said herself. But added, I absolutely don't regret my comments. They were really what I thought, but I would like to say sorry a little bit to the people I might have hurt who practice religion in peace. Um, she said that she had never intended to insult individual Muslims, only the religion. I wanted to be blasphemous. I wanted to speak out about religion to say what I thought. She described herself as an atheist, adding, I have always been able to differentiate between a religion and the people who practice it. Now, saying that she hated Islam can hardly be construed as saying she hated all Muslims. So I think it's very possible that her comments may have been distorted from the original French into Arabic by people with an agenda. This often happens. It's the nature of the internet, unfortunately, and that is another aspect of this. It's the fact that if this were the 1990s or earlier, there wouldn't be such a conflagration. It wouldn't be like wildfire. We have something online that ends up with someone being so vilified. This is one of the negative side effects of the cyber world. And when you have extreme ideologies like pan-Islamism, which coexist with that, it's very dangerous. But one thing that really concerned me about all of this was the fact that the establishment basically took a double pronged approach to this. They denounced the threats against her, but they were also actually looking into the initial response was an investigation into whether she had committed a hate crime by insulting Islam. Now she hasn't, and in France, blasphemy is not a crime, as it shouldn't be in any advanced country. In fact, Ireland only recently was one of the last Western countries to officially get rid of blasphemy laws in the case of Ireland, which were initially set up to protect Christianity. But in reality, no one's going to be stoned to death or violently lynched in Ireland for insulting the cross. Um, this really taps into a very, very real issue that we face in Europe, which is, and indeed in the Western world, which is, can pan Islamism coexist with liberal secular democracy? And one has to come to the uncomfortable conclusion that it can't. Now, France has about 5 million Muslims, so it is true that's a big demographic. But I simply cannot stomach the idea that anyone would think there's a moral equivalency here between offending religion and between violent death threats to a young woman whose only crime was to stand up for herself against a sexual harasser. Those proud Muslims who are attacking this young woman, why are they not attacking the guy that harassed her? It's absolutely disgusting. And I think everyone who genuinely believes in liberty, even if they don't entirely agree with her comments, they need to defend her robustly. Even if they don't agree with her hatred of Islam, they need to recognize this for what it is. And the fact that Macron's cabinet was divided between ministers who condemned the threats against her and those who were shamefully silent. It may be that they come from constituencies with a lot of Muslims, but that's no excuse. It's really no excuse. You know, France is a democracy. France is a country admired around the world for its values: liberty, equality, fraternity. And yet, here we have a young French woman whose life is at risk in the year 2020 because she offended a religion. Now, that is reprehensible. And I would say this: if you are a Muslim and you're one of the people who have either made the threats or support the threats or have tried to make a moral equivalency, like you've said something like, oh, well, I condemn her threats, but she shouldn't have offended Islam. That's no, you're just as bad. As far as I'm concerned, if you're taking a neutral stance on this and saying that offending Islam is just as bad as violent death threats, then my response would be, what does that say about your religion? If you feel that it is justified to violently defend it from a 16-year-old girl. It is interesting that the sort of people who were lining up to defend Greta Thunberg from criticism, not from threats, from criticism, seem to be silent on this 16-year-old. What I find incredible is the courage of this young woman. She hasn't went into hiding. Actually, she's shown her face. Here she is. I'm not saying that to I'm saying that to show why I admire her. The fact that she has not only stood up to a guy harassing her, but she is not backed down. She has not apologized for what she said. I think that is very important. What would be really unfortunate is if she was bullied into saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have criticized Islam." No. What she has done is stood by her conviction, and many people will be in agreement with her. And there will be some useful idiots who enablers who I think they're reprehensible. Those people who go around saying, "Oh, we need to combat Islamophobia." Well, what I would say is there's actually part of the article that I found interesting. Yeah, according to the Times, the French government and the authorities face conflicting calls to defend free speech and not alienate the 5 million strong Muslim community in France, which already feels misunderstood and excluded. You feel misunderstood? Well, a great way to counter that misunderstanding would be to say, I'm a Muslim and I condemn the death threats unequivocally. Not say, I condemn the death threats, but you shouldn't have offended my religion. Say, I condemn the death threats and that is not equal to any offence to my religion. So if people feel misunderstood, they need to frankly look in the mirror and see that there are thousands of anonymous, probably mostly men, but probably some women too. Don't underestimate the zeal of women Islamists. So the whole situation is an absolute travesty. Now the Macron government is backing her, but the very fact that this has come up just shows, and it won't be the first and it won't be the last. From Salman Rushdie's Satanic Verses onwards, we have seen Islamic extremism in all its ugly forms. And it isn't just manifested in terrorism, it's manifested in extreme intolerance. Of course, there's a difference between criticizing a religion and its adherents. If you're a Muslim and you think that criticizing Islam means a hate crime against you, then you're either very sensitive or you're not paying attention. If she had said, for example, that she hates all Muslims, I can understand that being insulting and provocative, but she didn't even say that. So I support her 100%. Je suis Mila. I support her 100%. And those so called liberals who are silent about something like this, their silence speaks volumes. I'm not even talking about those useful idiots who go around talking about the terrible problem of Islamophobia. I mean, Al Jazeera had a rather nauseating report about how Islamophobia is rife in the 21st century. They fail to mention that pan Islamism has been rife in the 21st century and has, drawn bloodshed from everywhere from Orlando to the Philippines. So I really think it's an ideological battle. And I don't think it's between the West and Muslims. I think it's between the West and fundamentalist Islam. I do think that there are many Muslims who are, well, I say many, there are Muslims who are reformist minded, who are secular. An example being our Chancellor, Sajid Javid. And there's others who they are they're patriotic, they are citizens of their respective countries. I'm sure there's plenty of patriotic French Muslims. But it is irrefutable that when we're talking about Islamism, it's not just manifested in terrorism. There are attitudes out there that are not compatible with liberal democratic values. They just aren't. And we need to have candid look at this because it isn't just in France. This could very easily have been Britain as well, or any other European country, particularly in Western Europe. So it infuriates me when people throw around the term Islamophobia. I say anti-Muslim hatred or anti-Muslim bigotry in situations where it's leveled at individual Muslims. Although this Muslim, the guy that was harassing her, deserved all the abuse he got from her. We should learn to understand when no means no. But I'll condemn that. I'll condemn generic vilification of all Muslims. But so often we are seeing situations that are simply criticism of Islamic extremism and Islamic intolerance. And we have to be very assertive. And those people, predominantly on the political left, and this isn't all left wing people, there are some on the French left who have defended her, so that has to be said, including some feminist groups. But there are others on the left who shamefully, and they're not Muslims, they shamefully think it's more important to have silence and to not speak about so called Islamophobia or not engage in criticism of Islam because that would be Islamophobic, rather than recognizing what we are seeing here. What this young woman has been through as a result of this is absolutely disgusting. To all those men threatening her, I say your cards. Threatening a 16-year-old girl from behind your computer screens? You think you're men? You think that makes you honourable Muslims? And as for women threatening her or supporting it, shame on you too. Where's your sisterly empathy? So I think it's really telling. I think Macron should publicly, unequivocally support the right to criticise religion.